Gather around, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, for the first episode of what we hope will be the greatest thing to happen to the internet since pornography. Yes, my fellow film nerds, this is the inaugural episode of Whatcha Gonna Queue. For those of you who don't know what the show is, which at this point is everybody, Whatcha Gonna Queue is a weekly video series that highlights the best titles that Netflix has to offer, broken down into 3 categories. New to Netflix, where we recommend a new release most worth checking out right away. What the F is This, where we delve into the obscure or overlooked titles buried in the annals of Netflix. And For Your Consideration, where the recommended titles tie into a timely, predetermined cinematic theme.
You may be wondering who these 2 handsome gentlemen sitting in front of you are. I'm co-host Alex Rabinowitz.
And I am co-host Jim Rohner. And if just watching 2 handsome men isn't enough for you, we have a little bit extra for you viewers to try and entice you in to keep watching the show, and also because we have low self-esteem. We're going to be doing free DVD giveaways for all the episodes in October. Oh. Yeah, right? We don't even get free stuff when we work here. And in order to win these free DVDs, here's what you have to do. At the end of every episode, we're going to be giving a little bit of a call sign, a movie quote, if you will. And the first 5 people who will correctly tweet what movie that's from to our Twitter account, you will win a free DVD copy of any movie that we've talked about in this show. Well, Alex, would you do us the honors of kicking us off with the very first recommendation?
I would. My recommendation for a new release this week, for our very first recommendation on this show, is, of course, the classic Human Centipede. No. My actual pick is Splice, a modern-day creature feature written and directed by Vincenzo Natali, starring Adrien Brody, Sarah Polley, and Delphine Chenayak. The movie was wildly praised by critics at Sundance, but almost unanimously misunderstood by mainstream audiences. In the film, Brody and Polley play a husband and wife geneticist team trying to crack a super gene for a pharmaceutical company, only to have their testing go horribly wrong when human DNA is introduced to the mix. So Jim, I mentioned that mainstream audiences didn't really understand this movie. Yes. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I certainly think that the marketing didn't help. I mean, I know that when I saw the movie, I sat through and I kind of watched it a bit reluctantly, actually. But then by the end, I was totally sold on this movie. I mean, I think it was really cool that there's kind of that homage to it, those 1950s like sci-fi kind of horror movies, and it's got that cool little undercurrent, like all movies did back then, of that fear of something. And this one is very much seemed to be like the fear of becoming a parent, what that's going to be like.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Mm-hmm. And Natali is not pandering to any audience whatsoever. It's a smart film, and then when the audiences did see it, they thought they were going to see a horror film, but they're seeing so much more. And the actors are given a lot to realize and actualize, so you have to hand it to them for taking such over-the-top, strange material and bringing a humanity to it.
Yeah, and what's really interesting in this is not just how good they are at the performances, but how the roles, as the film goes along, the roles kind of switch. I mean, one person is very much into it, the other one's very much skeptical, and then as it goes along, the tables turn, and it's such a testament to the script.
Yeah, but I think the MVP of the whole thing is Delphine Chenayak as the monster Dren.
Yeah, and I think it's a great movie. It's a solid pick to start off the show, so shall I usher us into section 2?
Usher us away.
I shall. My very first pick for Whatcha Gonna Queue is Living in Oblivion, an independent film written and directed by Tom DiCillo. Living in Oblivion revolves around a chaotic, darkly comic independent film shoot and stars Steve Buscemi as the hopeful and passionate director, Catherine Keener as the self-doubting actress, Dermot Mulroney as the pretentious but skilled DP, and James LaGrosse as Chad Palomino, the egotistical and airheaded leading man. Living in Oblivion is broken down into 3 different segments, each of which focuses on a different disaster occurring on set. And now, Alex, I know you have a bit of experience working on film sets. How accurate of a portrayal is this film? I mean, I'm sure you can testament to that.
Living in Oblivion, in comparison to what it's like to actually work on an independent film set, is devastatingly realistic. It is such a perfect picture of what that world and that experience is like that I was watching along with it, and I was predicting and saying what was going to happen before it actually did.
Right. I think the best description that I've read of this film was from Kenneth Turan of the LA Times when it initially came out. He called it like a twisted Valentine to independent filmmaking. It really is, because it takes that mixture of frustration but also reverence and avoids kind of being like a a cynical insidery film like Robert Altman's The Player, or this condemnation of filmmaking in the business. I just personally, I think it's really cool that not every, independent filmmaker out there is sort of this jaded, cynical asshole who's just critical of everything around him.
Right. This director, he's obviously making this as a reflection of his experiences working on films.
Yeah.
Do you think that there are some real-life inspirations?
Oh, totally. I mean, one of the most apparent to a lot of viewers, even though he denies it, Tom DiCillo to this day will deny this comparison, is that the airheaded and egotistical actor of Chad Palomino very much physically and in attitude resembles Brad Pitt, who initially starred in the last DiCillo movie they did, Johnny Suede.
Oh, God!
But while we're on the topic of great films, you know what else is pretty great?
What?
Section 3.
You fortunate few who were able to attend the 2010 Sundance Film Festival may have seen one of the year's most buzzed about films, Buried, starring Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, and Buried this weekend is going to be released widely thanks to Lionsgate, which is one of the truly independent film distributors left. It's just they release some really kick-ass movies, and so in honor of that, our theme for this week is going to be our favorite Lionsgate titles.
Speaking of kick-ass, my for your consideration pick is Kick-Ass, a nouveau graphic novel adaptation directed by Matthew Vaughn, based on the work by Mark Millar, starring Aaron Johnson, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Chloe Moritz, Mark Strong, and Nicolas Cage. Kick-Ass tells a story of a high school geek who takes it upon himself to become a superhero.
I mean, the average guy taking it upon himself to become a superhero certainly isn't anything new, but it's really kind of cool. What they do in this film is that there's a different take on it, which is, in the style of Mark Millar's work, is just kind of how brutal, that kind of work actually entails.
Yeah, it's that juxtaposition of the bright colors and the flashy idea of being a superhero with the cold, real-world truth of getting beaten up, getting stabbed, getting shot.
And speaking of that juxtaposition, that's actually kind of one of the problems I had with the film, that at certain moments it seems like it's going to go in the direction of kind of a commentary on how brutal this stuff really would be should it happen in real life. But then there are also scenes where, where it seems like they're very much in favor and in love with this idea of just how badass everyone can be. But saying that, I mean, Matthew Vaughn just shoots one hell of an action sequence.
Oh yeah, it's totally fun and completely out there and over the top, and that's what makes it so great and so watchable as well. And then the cast does a great job of making the characters who they are and playing this violence and comedy. But the real scene stealers are Chloe Moritz and Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it really shows her versatility as an actress in the way she can play these dangerous, surprising, loss of innocence roles.
Yeah, no, she's great, and certainly, I'd say runner-up is Nick Cage, who has an outlet for his crazy. And just, if nothing else, I mean, like we said, this film is fun, it's got some great sequences, and if nothing else, it's one of the few films out there that makes violence against children really funny. So, But transitioning from one genre, the superhero film, to another, horror, brings up my pick. And my pick for your consideration is Bug, directed by William Friedkin, starring Ashley Judd as a lonely recluse, Michael Shannon as a meandering Iraq war veteran, and Harry Connick Jr. as Judd's recently paroled ex-husband. Bug revolves around the relationship between Judd and Shannon that, as the film progresses, physically and psychologically degrades as they believe that their home and even their skin are infested by bugs. First and foremost, a lot of credit should be given to the actors Ashley Judd and Michael Shannon. Fantastic, I think.
Right, and it just dives into their heads, and they give outrageous, nuanced performances that are uncomfortable almost.
Uncomfort is a great word to just describe this entire movie. I mean, from beginning to end, I mean, just the production design and the cinematography, everything feels kind of dirty, like you wouldn't want to be around it. Exacerbating this situation is this kind of twisted psyche of Michael Shannon's character.
Michael Shannon is just such an underrated actor. He's so good in almost everything he's in.
Yeah, he's so good. And not only is he a great actor, but he's also nude in this film, so if you really dig that, weirdos, that's something to look forward to as well, I suppose.
Now let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yes.
Let me ask you something.
Yes, madam.
As a fan of the theater
Yes.
and the play version of Bug,
Okay.
how did the movie enhance and improve upon the play?
Film, obviously being a visual medium, lets you do a lot more that other mediums don't. Books, in this case theater. And so Friedkin has a lot of, really cranks up that idea of his paranoia and that there's something not right here. And it's just little stuff like close-ups of a slowly spinning fan, or or right at a crucial moment of the film, the air conditioner just dies.
And I think also the climax of the film was something that was very powerful in the movie. And don't get me wrong, it's still powerful in the play, but there's the ability for the movie to get those special effects in there that really make it huge.
Well, unfortunately, kids, that wraps it up for our very first episode of Whatcha Gonna Queue. We hope you enjoyed it. I know we enjoyed it. We laughed, we cried. I'm pretty sure Alex touched my thigh, but that's not important. What's important is that we'll be right back here next week for another great episode of Whatcha Gonna Queue. And Alex, let's say that fine folks at home wanted to contact us. Would that be easy to do?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can reach us on Twitter at Whatcha_Gonna_Queue. Or you can email us. Jim, what's your email address?
My email address is jr@magnetmediafilms.com.
And my email address is ajrab@magnetmediafilms.com.
Yeah, and be sure to search for us on Facebook, too. I know we're there. I was just there today.
And we have a website, whatchagonnaqueue.com.
Right. Well, like I said, that wraps it up. And for you people who are hoping for a free DVD giveaway, remember, kid, the next time I say let's go someplace like Bolivia, let's go someplace like Bolivia.